Okay, this is my new book. It's called The Best of the West in Art, Movies, Music, and Books. And there's a couple things I was trying to accomplish here. Number one was, in a sense, this is a humanities, liberal arts, education all in one book. The book's kind of expensive. I think it costs about $45. I couldn't make it any cheaper than that. I used the biggest pages I could get, 8.5 by 11 that I'm allowed, because I wanted a big page to put a big painting on. That comes with consequences. Most places won't make it, won't sell it, won't stock it. But it is what it is. I put it on regular paper. If I put it on thick paper, then I wouldn't have to compress the images, but I only compressed them 1%. So they're really good. They're not perfect, but they're really good. Otherwise, the book would cost like over $150. When I make a book, on the cover you can see the painting of the art gallery. It's the thumbnail for this book. It's beautiful, and what I'm trying to show people is, people want to expect the book itself inside is going to be aesthetically beautiful, then the cover should be aesthetically beautiful. If the cover has some modern art piece of crap, that a child could have done, then the book's going to stink. If the author has no judgment and puts modern art on the cover, the author sucks. They're a conformist wimp. If the artist puts something ugly, disgusting, like the Mona Lisa, it looks like an ugly, fat transvestite, okay, it's disgusting. Nobody puts a picture of the Mona Lisa on their dorm room, okay? If they put that on there as their idea of art, the book's going to stink, okay? So what I'm trying to say is, it's an aesthetic thing about the author's judgment that the picture on the cover should be beautiful. And so if you look at all my book covers, you're going to see they're aesthetically beautiful. So that's important. The next thing is, I want to get right to the point. I won't put testimonials in there unless they're funny or they're real unusual, because I want to show the reader this is not going to waste your time. This is going to be good. It's going to be beautiful. It's going to be special. It's going to be useful. Okay? So that is a painting on the color, Art Gallery of the Modern Rome. All right. The Greeks taught us poetry. This is from Petronius, the speaking in the book Quo Vadis. The Romans taught us power. The Christians taught us forgiveness. And that's really about right. The Greeks were just magnificent, beautiful. They were like the only little light of freedom in the ancient world, which is just full of tyrannical dictatorships. All these big flat countries where a dictator says, do as I say or I'll kick your ass. Versus Greece, it was all these rocky city-states that competed with each other and traded with the outside world, so they had a whole sense of variety of opinion, and they allowed free debate, especially in Athens amongst the aristocrats. And so they worked their way up step by step to better and better things. Most of the great things in the world, many of them that don't involve modern technology, come from the ancient Greeks. Okay. Another thing, too, I was trying to figure out in this book is Western civilization really great? Is it really great, or is it really not that different from the other civilizations and cultures? Is multiculturalism true, that all cultures are equal, or is that BS? And the truth is, multiculturalism is absolute horseshit. It's complete BS. Western culture is about 1,000 times better than all the other cultures. And I say that based on an objective point of view. These other cultures in South America and the Caribbean, they were sacrificing all these healthy people, and they were having cannibalism. That's, savagery, okay? And there was cannibalism in Africa. There was cannibalism in other places. That's bad, okay? There was, India. A lot of, real smart people from all these different places. But what I've seen is the smart people from these different places, they usually just want to make money for themselves until they have Christianity, and then that makes you want to do things good for the world. A perfect example, let's say from India, would be like Dinesh D'Souza. The guy's a genius. He makes real nice films, real nice books. Actually, he's a Christian, okay? And there's other ones like that. Vishal Mangalwadi, okay, beautiful book. The book that made your world. It's magnificent. All right, so anyways, most people that I see in real bright from other non-Christian cultures, they're like, hey, they use their brains, they get a great job, make a lot of money, enjoy their life. And that's nice, but it's the Christians that tend to produce the most magnificent things like art and whatnot. Okay, and typical examples here, Johann Sebastian Bach, he said, all my compositions are for God's glory alone, Soli Deo Gloria. Okay, Michelangelo, I have been designated for this work by God, I work out of love for God. And that's normal too, that these great artists, great composers, they have this sense of destiny. And that's part what energizes them and motivates them to be the best in the world at their field. Here's Isaac Newton, smartest guy who ever lived. He said, I have a fundamental belief in the Bible as the Word of God. I study the Bible daily. All my discoveries have been made in answer to prayer. And I run into that sometimes too, because I'll see these young junior little lightweights and they'll say to me, how could you be a Christian? Do you believe all that nonsense? And I'm like, look, dude, the greatest people who ever lived, most of them were motivated by this. Okay, Michelangelo, the greatest artist who ever lived. Bach, the greatest composer who ever lived. Isaac Newton, the greatest genius who ever lived. It energizes you to better achievement. Okay, it's you know, no composer can judge Bach. Okay, they should be judged by Bach as the ultimate standard. Johann Kepler, probably the best of the astronomers. There's other great ones, of course, but he said, what did he say? For many years I wanted to be a theologian, but now I see how God is also praised by my work in astronomy. Science is the process of thinking God's thoughts after him. The heavens declare the glory of God. Yeah, and so that's how it is. And I also think some people say, oh, you're too immodest, you're too over the top. And I'm like, well, if I don't think it's great, why would I write a book about it? You know, if I don't think it's worth my time, it's nothing special, why put all this time into doing this sort of thing? You know, a book should be something that you think is great, or why bother with it? Okay, just a couple more quotes here. He says, this is from Fyodor Dostoevsky, author of Brothers Karamazov, considered by a lot of people the greatest novelist who ever lived overall, because he had multiple great novels. So did Charles Dickens, but here's what he says. There is nothing more beautiful, more profound, more sympathetic, more reasonable, more courageous, and more perfect than Christ. If they drive God from the earth, we will shelter him underground. Yeah, that's right on, okay? And, you know, the best book chapter ever written in any novel is The Grand Inquisitor in Brothers Karamazov. Okay, here's Thomas Woods, author of How the Catholic Church Built Western Civilization, which is the truth. Western civilization is the greatest civilization of all time. True. Western civilization was built by the Catholic Church. True. The Catholic Church is the greatest institution that was ever created by mankind. That's also true. Okay, now don't get me wrong. The modern Catholic Church stinks. The POPE of the current time is an evil piece of crap. Okay, it's part of the, you know, satanic infiltration of the church. But all these great things in the West came from it. And here's a good quote by Voltaire. I want my doctor and tailor to believe in God so they don't rob me. And Voltaire, you know, he was a brilliant guy, but he's also a jerk. You know, he's like one of the philosophers. And Voltaire had said, you know, the philosopher doesn't need God, but most people aren't philosophers. Once you take God out of society, man just becomes vicious and violent and evil, and it's just a fact. I mean, look what happened in France, 1789 to 1794. It's a disaster. Okay? You got a guillotine and 50,000 heads on the ground. That's what you get with atheism, real fast. Okay. All right, so here's the table of contents in the book. I'll go through the best of the best, second best of the best, third best, the greatest movies, greatest books, greatest stuff coming out of ancient Rome and Greece. And then I go through a lot of stuff that I haven't gone through before in other books, like the Belle Époque, statues and whatnot. And I do joke around in the book. I'm also a little flip in the beginning quite often. I start out with things being kind of easy. I do all this stuff on purpose because I'm trying to show the reader, this book is not like anything you've read before. There's no book that exists like this. That's why I made it. Okay? And another thing people tell me, I shouldn't be making jokes like this because I'm never going to be allowed in any school. I'm never going to be allowed in any university. And my attitude is they can kiss my ass. Okay? I want to be good. And if you're going to be good, then you can't fit into what, you know, some lefty pinko commie scumbag is going to say you have to do. So I'll write them, I'll make them good, and it just is what it is. Okay, so I am going to joke in there, and Christianity allows you to do that, and it is a fact. Other cultures, yeah, you got a lot of real smart people, but the truth is, almost all the great science, almost all the great art, it all comes from Christianity. It's just a fact. I mean, that's objectively true. Look it up for yourself. Okay, so here's a disclaimer. Dear non-Christian cultures, I realize that you feel inferior because you suck at painting, sculpture, music, writing, architecture, movie making, self-control, and many other things. It is not because you are stupid, though many of you are. It is not because you are ugly, though many of you are. But it is because you don't have Christianity. All you've got to do is accept Jesus, start learning, and perhaps someday you might do something useful. Okay, I'll just show you the first page or two. And again, I'm always playing games at the beginning of a book. I'm trying to make it fun. And I'm also, again, trying to show the reader this is not going to be a stick-in-the-mud, boring thing that you'd be forced to read for school. This is going to be interesting and fun. Okay, Starts out with a quote. Senor Quixote was an old man who pined for the past, reading books about chivalry from morning to night until his brain dried up and he went mad. He gave himself the noble title Don and then set out on his high horse to restore chivalry. Miguel Cervantes. You know, I'm half Puerto Rican, and my Puerto Rican cousins, they love Don Quixote. It's on their rum, Don Q. They drink it all the time. Don Quixote is all over the place, okay? Some people think, you know, it's like the first real novel. Some people even think it's the greatest novel. It's too long, actually, but it's a lot of fun stuff in it. Anyways, like Don Quixote, this book is on a quest to save civilization. We are building an ark to maintain the best of the West. Into the ark, we have put the finest art, movies, music, and books. It's like a time capsule, this book. I'm going to show you all this great stuff. I've studied it for decades, and you see how great and how beautiful it is. And then you'll also see these other cultures have nothing. You know, they got nothing. I mean, what does this hand have in terms of cultural? Drag Queen Story Day? It's a joke, okay? It's a joke. All right, so... It is true that this stuff's being destroyed and it can all be deleted off the internet. So I wanted it in a paperback book to save the great things in civilization. Someday when the sun of freedom shines again and the people are able to walk on solid ground, they can build on these past glories. As G.K. Chesterton had said, the way to love anything is to realize that it may be lost. Time for the masterpieces. Drum roll, please. Okay, so... You know, just as a joke, I started out with the best song for making love. And, you know, why would I start out with something silly like that? The reason is I'm trying to show people this is not just going to be all religion and serious philosophy. It's going to be a lot of fun, too. And that's actually a great song for making love, Falling Into You by Celine Dion. It's a magnificent song. Maybe I'll link to that in the description below for this video today. Okay, the next one is the best movie to watch with the woman you love. That would be A Wonderful Life. Starring Jimmy Stewart and Donna Reed. Okay, it's just a magnificent movie. Okay. The best book for learning how to seduce women would be Mystery Method by Mystery. And it's a little bit of a crazy book, and the guy's like 6'5", and women will just throw themselves at the feet of a tall guy. But there's still some clever, funny stuff in there. So for somebody beginning, that would be a book to look at. I would say once you're serious about dating women and knowing how to behave around them, you should read the book. You should listen to the guy, Casey Zander, and these other dating coaches. They're really good. And they give you reality. And, you know, it's sort of like as a man, you say, oh, well, you shouldn't play games. Well, you have to play games when you date because the woman's always going to play games. She's always going to shit test you, so to speak, and you have to know how to play along with it because if you don't, it just makes it easier, all right? It just does. I mean, if you're 6'5", you make $1 million a year, she'll throw herself at your feet and beg you to sleep with her. But other than that, you have to play through all these little games that they play, and there's nothing you can do about it. It's just how it is. Okay, so then the book's going to start getting into more of the stuff you expect. So I started out with the little fun and games at the beginning, and then, okay, what is the best painting, or at least the most important painting of all time? Not aesthetically the best, but the most philosophically important, religiously, theologically important painting of all time is the creation of Adam and from Genesis in the Bible. Michelangelo did this in 1512. It's on the Sistine Chapel ceiling in the Vatican in Rome. Man is created in the image of God, and therefore he is part divine. Also part beast, but partly divine, and thus entitled to natural rights, like free speech, privacy, ownership, property, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, as it says in the Declaration of Independence. And you have to have this. What people don't understand is if you don't have this, and this isn't accepted by society, then mankind becomes just a farm animal owned by the ruler. And I can assure you, the rich people that run the show, they consider you a farm animal. They don't go by this. They go by atheism. And now, rich, powerful people always want atheism because then they become the equivalent of God on earth. There's nothing above them. They can do whatever they want. That's why they always want that. Okay, Genesis 1:27. So God created man in his own image. In the image of God, he created him, male and female. He created them. Okay, so Michelangelo is sort of like the Hercules of art. He took the power of sculpture and he put it into painting. You know, his characters are typically these real muscular characters. Okay. Here's a quote by Sister Wendy, the art expert. She said, Michelangelo's frescoes in the Sistine Chapel are the most sublime of all paintings, and the creation of Adam is the greatest of them. Johann von Wolfgang Goethe, the greatest writer of Germany, sort of like the German Shakespeare, he said, Michelangelo's Sistine Chapel frescoes are the greatest achievements ever in the history of art, and they show the known limit of what one artist can do. Yeah, it's magnificent. You look at that, you're in awe. It's like, how could anybody have done that? Laying on their back, paint this magnificent thing. Atheistic Darwinism says man has no rights. He's just a talking ape. Christ says that what you do to the least of my brethren, you're doing to me. Yeah, Christ says we're all equal in the eyes of man. What more could you want? You're elevated to be in as high a status as the emperor, the king, the ruler, the rich billionaire. Okay? That's good for the little guy. Nothing lifts up the little guy like Christianity does. Okay, Arnold Toynbee, British historian, he says, the brotherhood of man is based on the fatherhood of God. Okay, we'll leave it at that for today. Hope you found that interesting.